I'm happy and proud to celebrate the 25th anniversary of the MS&E department. I created the department by merging three small departments which I knew very well, each with its own focus and reputation.
Once upon a time, there were three legacy departments. Industrial engineering was sort of focused on core, i.e. manufacturing. Operations research was focused on the mathematics of decision-making and algorithms related to that.
In engineering economic systems, there was a mix of systems analysis, economics, and decision analysis.
Engineering economic systems, I viewed it really as a liberal arts approach to engineering, where you got to sort of sample all of the different ways that the different engineering disciplines solved problems, and then put it all together to work on big systems kinds of issues.
All these three legacy departments were very, very strong. They had defined their fields. They were doing really, really, really well for decades, not years, decades.
We were one of the only, if not the only, industrial engineering department that had a very strong organizational behavior strategy component to what we did.
Engineering is increasingly interdisciplinary, and in that respect, MS&E fills a unique niche in the school.
I distinctly remember at the end of my junior year, they had asked me to sit in and be interviewed by a curriculum evaluator. This person was from Georgia Tech. And one of the first questions he asked me was, how can you be a good engineer when, roughly 2 quarters out of 12 are not even engineering classes? It surprised me that was a real question, because the strength of the MS&E industrial engineering curriculum is that you have to have a broad liberal education in order to make good decisions.
The world was changing, and as the world is changing, new opportunities emerge. And at some point it appeared that having these three departments together, we could capture far more opportunities than otherwise.
If you're a manager, you need to understand the people and why they do what they do. By bringing together the strengths of each of the three original departments, MS&E allows addressing complex engineering and social systems problems.
Over the last 25 years, we've hired faculty who are generally interested in looking at problems from different perspectives, either on their own or by partnering with people in other disciplines.
MS&D is a department that cuts across the three legacy areas, and it's really at the intersections of what those three legacy departments did that MS&D is able to do new things.
What is MS&E? That is a hard question. I think MS&E is new frontiers.
I would describe it as a mix of engineering, analytics, and business strategy.
It is an approach to problem solving where you use quantitative tools to guide decisions.
The MS&E teaches a first principles approach to solving complex technology and business problems.
MS&E is perfect for entrepreneurs because it allows them to have this kind of broad base of skills and understanding that they can go and apply in different ways along their entrepreneurial journey.
It's the study of how to use people, information, and processes efficiently.
It gives you a structured way of looking at problems and trying to size them up and solve them.
Describing MS&E is really interesting. I've worked a lot of events with Ross Schachter for undergrads, and he said if a mechanical engineer takes apart a machine and figures out how it works and how to make it better, an MS&E student might take apart an organization and figure out how does it work and how to make it work better.
First of all, it is grounded in engineering, and that's a very big strength. So merging engineering and computing with organizations and people, and this is something very powerful.
When you create a big department, it just creates a different kind of academic environment than a small department.
The breadth is, I think, somewhat unique in engineering disciplines and therefore, I think, pretty powerful.
I didn't quite know what I wanted to do going into Stanford, but I knew I wanted it to be interdisciplinary because I've never just had one single interest.
The interests have changed a little bit with the master's students. I think initially it was more manufacturing, operations management. It moved into more finance. We had a lot of students interested in finance, and now I think the interest of the master's students are much more in the entrepreneurship and computational social science areas.
One of the great things about the program, from my standpoint, is that it's not specific to like finance, for instance. It's more general and can be applied to really a lot of different areas that people are interested in.
A lot of our courses are just really foundational skills in mathematical modeling, in operations research, in leadership, in strategy. And those are skills that you can take anywhere.
MS&E was a great home for my studies because we have a lot of faculty who are just curious about solving real world complex problems.
Yeah, I remember our senior year class project team, and the presentation that we created actually helped them go and implement and make decisions that impacted their business.
I can very clearly remember the capstone project where we helped the Palo Alto Recreational District, and we're updating their manual, and we went out into the field and started talking to them, and most of them didn't even know the manual existed. And that aha moment has formed my approach. You can't just sit around in the conference room talking about what the customer or what the client needs. You have to go out and talk to the client and find out what their actual life is about.
Actually, the project mentor we worked with, Madison, ended up calling me about a year later, offering me a position at her new firm, and now I work there full time. So MS&E got me my current job.
In one of my classes junior year, we were workshopping a bunch of different company concepts. The concept we put together as a team ultimately is what became Stardex. There's been hundreds of Stanford companies that have been through the program now 10 plus years later.
It's also prepared me for working closely with venture capitalists as well as tech founders, which I am doing now. And also did when I was in the Department of Defense.
Among other fields, MS&E provides students with business tools, such as finance. The depart's from strengths in computer science allows us to master artificial intelligence, but nothing could have worked as well as it did without the dedication of our staff, especially Laurie Cotto, who has been all along our outstanding Director of Student and Academic Services.
I think every area in the department is very strong. I think we have excellent faculty.
One thing that we did when I was department chair was that we created a new entry-level course for the PhD students so that they would all have at least some degree of common experience. And I think it's created, a better understanding of what the department looks like as a whole, and also, created social connections that get carried forward.
For me, when I think of my time at MS&E, the first thing that comes to mind are the people.
I met so many interesting and intelligent people at Stanford. I worked with really amazing students from all over the world. It really prepared me for working in corporate America, where you're dealing with all sorts of different people from different cultures and values.
When I think about my time at Stanford, really what I think about is just being on campus, experiencing the area, exploring things, being with all my fellow students and meeting them from all over the world.
The best part ends up inevitably being some of the people you meet along the way. So I have a lot of lifelong friends.
There was an evening where Ron Howard and his wife Polly and a group of his students came over to our house and essentially gave us his life story. I remember sitting around with a bunch of my colleagues having a really unique experience with my faculty advisor.
It sounds so cliche, but I really did meet one of my best friends through the program, just spending late nights at the dining hall or having a great time despite the fact that we were grinding out P-sets are some of my favorite memories.
My favorite memory of industrial engineering is meeting my wife, Karen. She was entering the industrial engineering department. I practically bumped into her but I knew this was a moment when I could have an opportunity to get to know her a little bit better. And that worked out pretty well. 6 weeks later, we're engaged. And now 46 years later, we're still married.
You know, I've been here 35 years, and part of the reason I stayed so long is this is a great place to be. I mean, Stanford in general, but I think the department.
MS&E is now in a great position for success and impact in the future.
I've hired a number of new junior faculty over the last decade, and I continue to be excited about the way the department is going to evolve as a result of the leadership that these new faculty bring to us.
Having people that cross boundaries between departments is a very powerful model, and I think we will see more of that in the future. And MS&E is uniquely positioned in that respect.
One of the things that excites me about MS&D and its future is that I've seen in the last years the development of incredibly powerful computational platforms together with the availability of huge amounts of data. Neither of those two things existed at the same scale historically. This creates opportunities to use MS&D type tools in a whole range of different things that people didn't think were possible in earlier times.
One of the things we've seen over the last, even since I was at Stanford 25 years ago, was just the amount of data that's available is exploded. And one of the limits to some of the things historically within like operations research is just the data wasn't there in a lot of cases to usefully apply some of these tools in some areas. But I think that's really been solved. And I think the tools to analyze that data are really more relevant than ever.
How do you create new landscapes and technologies to solve complex problems? And how do you solve complex problems using new technologies and new ideas?
Well, this is always the goal of any top department, right? To create the leaders of tomorrow. How do we focus on the best problems of today and have the brightest minds work on them, and in the process contribute to solutions of these problems? These are all strengths of the department, and they require interdisciplinary thinking.
With what's going on with industry with the rise of Gen AI and how careers are going to change in the very near future, I think there's no better place than being at Stanford and the Management Science and Engineering Department to really understand and be at the forefront of that change.
It's a great way to get exposed to a bunch of different topics, learn what you're good at, learn what you enjoy, and then you can figure out, is there something you want to specialize in?
MS&E is a great department because you get such great support. There's something very special about being in a place where, students are able to be a bit entrepreneurial and be able to think sort of out of the box, and also get the support to be able to do that.
I hope that alumni from the department would come out of here realizing that they've gotten an amazing education from our amazing faculty, but also that, they came from a department that cared about what they were doing, that cared about the classes they were taking, that cared about helping them get through the program, and that, staff and the faculty were there to support them on their education journey. And so I hope that they would see the caring along with the excellent education that they got.
I'm proud of where we are. I look forward to seeing the department develop further, making sure that we keep and reinforce our strengths in operations research, social sciences, and engineering.